Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. The face and name of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, life dates 1828 to 1914, need no introduction to you students of the Civil War. Professor at Bowdoin College, Colonel of the 20th Maine Infantry, the gallantry of him and his men along Little Round Top at Gettysburg, severely wounded during the Second Battle of Petersburg and given a promotion, commanding troops during the surrender of Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox, governor of Maine. Among the many natural gifts honed during his life's journey, his abilities as a writer and storyteller influenced and shaped how America remembered him and the war. It can be truly said that to the victors go the spoils of war, and to the finest writers go the memory of its joys and sorrows. I want to share one of Chamberlain's recollections, this one about the horrors at Fredericksburg. The version I'm about to read appeared in the 1886 book Campfire Sketches and Battlefield Echoes of the Rebellion by the Boys. It's titled Night on the Field of Fredericksburg. Chamberlain begins. Onward time moves. Many years have passed since Fredericksburg. Of what then was not much is left but memory. Faces and forms of men and things that then were have changed, perchance to dust. New life has covered some, the rest look but lingering farewells. But whatever changes may beautify those storm-swept and barren slopes, there is one character from which they can never pass. Death gardens haunted by glorious ghosts, they must abide. No bloom can there unfold which does not wear the rich token of the inheritance of heroic blood. No breeze be wafted that does not bear the breath of the immortal life there breathed away. Of all that splendid but unavailing valor, no one has told the story, nor can I. The pen has no wing to follow where that sacrifice and devotion sped their flight. But memory may rest down on some night scenes, too quiet and somber with shadow to be vividly depicted, and yet which have their interest from very contrast with the tangled and lurid lights of battle. The desperate charge was over. We had not reached the enemy's fortifications, but only that fatal crest where we have seen 5 lines of battle mount, but to be cut to earth as by a sword swoop of fire. We had that costly honor which sometimes falls to the reserve, to go in when all is havoc and confusion, through storm and slaughter, to cover the broken and depleted ranks of comrades and take the battle from their hands. Thus we had replaced the gallant few still struggling on the crest, and received that withering fire which nothing could withstand, by throwing ourselves flat in a slight hollow of the ground within pistol shot of the enemy's works. And, mingled with the dead and dying that strewed the field, we returned the fire till it reddened into night, and at last fell away through darkness into silence. But out of that silence, from the battle's crash and roar, rose new sounds more appalling still. Rose or fell, you knew not which, or whether from the earth or air. A strange ventriloquism, of which you could not locate the source, a smothered moan that seemed to come from distances beyond reach of the natural sense, a wail so far and deep and wide, as if 1,000 discords were flowing together into a keynote, weird, unearthly, terrible to hear and bear, yet startling with its nearness. The writhing concord broken by cries for help, pierced by shrieks of paroxysm, some begging for a drop of water, some calling on God for pity, and some on friendly hands to finish what the enemy had so horribly begun. Some with delirious, dreamy voices, murmuring love names as if the dearest were bending over them. Some gathering their last strength to fire a musket to call attention to them where they lay helpless and deserted. And underneath all the time, that deep bass note from closed lips, too hopeless or too heroic to articulate their agony. Who could sleep or who would? Our position was isolated and exposed. Officers must be on alert with their command, but the human took the mastery of the official, sympathy of soldiership. Command could not be devolved, but pity not. So, with the staff officer, I sallied forth to see what we could do where the helpers seemed so few, taking some observations in order not to lose the bearing of our own position. We guided our steps by the most piteous of the cries. Our part was but little to relieve a painful posture, to give a cooling draught to fevered lips, to compress a severed artery, as we had learned to do, though in bungling fashion, to apply a rude bandage which yet might prolong the life to saving, to take a token or farewell message for some stricken home. It was but little, yet it was an endless task. We had moved towards the right and rear of our own position, the part of the field immediately above the city. The farther we went, the more the need deepened and the calls multiplied. Numbers half wakening from the lethargy of death or of despair by sounds of succor begged us to take them quickly to a surgeon, and when we could not do that, imploring us to do the next most merciful service and give them quick dispatch out of their misery. Right glad were we when, after midnight, the shadowy ambulances came gliding along, and the kindly hospital stewards, with stretchers and soothing appliances, let us feel that we might return to our proper duty. And now we were aware of other figures wandering, ghost like, over the field, some on errands like our own, drawn by compelling appeals, some seeking a lost comrade, with uncertain steps amidst the unknown, and ever and anon bending down to scan the pale visage closer, or, it may be, by the light of a brief match, whose blue flickering flame scarcely can give the features a more recognizable or more human look. Some man, desperately wounded, yet seeking with faltering step before his fast ebbing blood shall have left him too weak to move, some quiet or sheltered spot out of sound of the terrible appeals he could neither answer nor endure, or out of reach of the raging battle coming with the morning, one creeping, yet scarcely moving from one lifeless form to another, if perchance he might find a swallow of water in a canteen still swung from the dead soldier's side, or another, as with just returning or just remaining consciousness, vainly striving to rise from a mangled heap, that he may not be buried with them while yet alive, or some man, yet sound of body, but pacing feverishly his ground, because in such a bivouac his spirit could not sleep. And so we picked our way back amidst the stark, upturned faces to our little living line. The night chill had now woven a misty veil over the field. Fortunately, a picket fence we had encountered in our charge from the town had compelled us to abandon our horses, and so had saved our lives on the crest. But our overcoats had been strapped to the saddles, and we missed them now. Most of the men, however, had their overcoats or blankets. We were glad of that. Except a few sentries along the front, the men had fallen asleep, the living with the dead. At last, unwearied and depressed with the desolate scene, my own strength sunk, and I moved two dead men a little and lay down between them, making a pillow of the breast of a third. The skirt of his overcoat drawn over my face, helped also to shield me from the bleak winds. There was some comfort even in this companionship, but it was a broken sleep. The deepening chill drove many forth to take the garments of those who could no longer need them, that they might keep themselves alive. More than once I was startled from my unrest by someone turning back the coat skirt from my face, peering, half vampire like to my fancy, through the darkness to discover if it too were of the silent and unresisting, turning away, more disconcerted at my living word than if a voice had spoken from the dead. Having held our places all the night, we had to keep them all the more closely the next day, for it would be certain death to attempt to move away. As it was only by making breastworks and barricades of the dead men that covered the field that we saved any alive. We did what we could to take a record of these men, a testament that had fallen from the breast pocket of the soldier who had been my pillow. I sent soon after to his home. He was not of my command, and it proved to be the only clue his parents ever had to his fate. The next midnight, after 36 hours of this harrowing work, we were bidden to withdraw into the town for refreshment and rest. But neither rest nor motion was to be thought of till we had paid fitting honor to the dead. We laid them on the spot they had won, on the sheltered edge of the crest, and committed their noble forms to the earth and their story to their country's keeping. We buried them darkly at dead of night, the sod with our bayonets turning. Splinters of boards torn by shot and shell from the fences we had crossed served as headstones, each name hurriedly carved under brief matchlights, anxiously hidden from the foe. It was a strange scene around that silent and shadowy sepulchre. We will give them a starlight burial, it was said, but heaven ordained a more sublime illumination. As we bore them in dark and sad procession, their own loved North took up the escort, and lifting all her glorious lights, led the triumphal march over the bridge that spans the worlds, an Aurora Borealis of marvelous majesty, fiery lances and banners of blood and flame, columns of pearly light, garlands and wreaths of gold, all pointed upward and beckoning on. Who would not pass on as they did, dead for their country's life, and lighted to burial by the meteor splendors of their native sky? So there you have Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain's writing about one night, one dark night, one desperate night, one memorable night at Fredericksburg. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.